Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of the news on Equinoxe television. Thank you for joining us. My name is Pablo Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, the OPEC city of Limbe in the southwest region of Cameroon is under tight security ahead of the quarter-final encounter pitting the intermediate lions of Cameroon and the Atlas Lions of Morocco. Later tonight at 8 p.m. the two lions will be clashing in the quarterfinals of the 2020 edition of the African Nations Championship, while the intermediate lions are fighting to grab a victory. An indomitable lion, a former indomitable lion, dies in shameful conditions here in Cameroon's economic capital. Douala Nobe Ouna died earlier today and his body abandoned on the road. Civil society leaders decry increasing violation and abuse of human rights in the country. A group of civil society organizations have published a report on the human rights violations recorded in Cameroon. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the newscast on Equinoxe television. We begin in sports, and the first semi-final game in the ongoing 2020 African Nations Championship is going on here in Douala, and Guinea has been playing a very tight game with Mali in the first semi-final game of this competition. A goal-less encounter, and of course the match has gone through the 90 minutes regular playing time up and continued in the prolongation, and yet no goal. And it is likely possible that the two teams will continue in penalty shootout to get a winner from that encounter who will cross over to the final of the 2020 African Nations Championship. And security is tight in the town of Limbe, southwest region of the country, ahead of the second semi-final encounter of this edition of Chan here in Cameroon, and the intermediate lions will be locking horns with the Atlas Lions of Morocco. Our reporter in Limbe, Davidson Maimo, paints the atmosphere of the town ahead of that encounter coming up today at 8 p.m.
It is a busy day in the seaside resort city of Limbe, with its normal hustling and bustling activities, as Cameroonians anxiously await in anticipation of a possible victory for the intermediate lions against their Moroccan counterpart in the Chan final qualification ticket.
These are my tickets. I'm ready for the match. I'm confident Cameroon is going to win today. It's going to make it 3-1.
Cameroon win by 3-1 and we're going to carry the cup.
Cameroon 2, Morocco 1.
Avec les Lions, je les fais confiance.
Struggle, I'm going to see having a victory of 1-0.
Cameroon is going to win this match today. Who not? Yes, and we are going to make the finals. Who not?
However, 1,000 CFA francs ticket for the commoner is a huge problem.
The guy sell it for 1,000 for 5,000.
Les gens achètent le ticket de 1,000 fois et le revendent à un prix exorbitant de 3,000. C'est incompréhensible.
See, I'm the day say ticket 1,000, they sell our 2,000, 3,000. Lime is our town. Obispo Stadium is our stadium. We need tickets. The common man should be there to support, not those at the offices. We know what to do in order to achieve 3 points.
Cameroonians in Limbe opine Yaoundé and Douala had their turn to watch the intermediate lions live.
Yaoundé don't finish on part. They say Abuzo Douala don't finish. Say Abuzo Limbe. Limbe won't finish on today. Envelope bien. Et si tu ne donnes pas le billet, you lost for yet. No blame no man.
Questioning why ticket for the commoner in Limbe and Boya should be sold in other towns.
So the one clapping. Okada Black can never blow this thing. They can never.
Ticket sale point official says 1,000 CFA francs tickets were sold like hotcake.
The tickets for 1,000 and 2,000 were not many because of the issues of 25%. I heard about 400 tickets for Limbe. So it took us 20 minutes to sell those tickets for 1,000. That is the first ticket that the population want to buy.
The bone of contention is a high level of security put in place compared to Yaoundé and Douala.
Just to move to the field, take about 1 hour to enter the field.
Way to transport passengers to the field, there is no way.
Town a peaceful town. We're not going no problem. We're not going to the worry when I just say the view of our security in town. It makes someone living fear for.
To some Cameroonians, it is an impediment to their free movement and an obstacle to celebrate fair play.
We are supposed to move freely to the field, watch our football match in a very joyful way and come back safely. Every day they come and say people for Limbe don't like for go field. For people for Limbe they want to go field. 1 million also to support all parts for Yaoundé.
We trade from separatists since the competition kicked off. Security dispensation in Limbe has been topped on the agenda. Generally, it is the first time since Shan matches are played in Limbe for the population to witness such an excitement and enthusiasm.
Between January 2020 to January 2021, 10,038 violent incidents recorded with 1,579 deaths, most of them in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. And civil society organizations are decrying the rising violation or the increasing violation of human rights in the Republic of Cameroon. Some of the civil society organizations have brought themselves together, including Stand Up for Cameroon and Almond Avenue, to fight this ill in the Cameroonian society. The granted a press conference today here in Douala. Charles Kmer reports.
The gross violation of human rights in Cameroon continues to be a major problem in the country. Statistics prove that between the 15th of January 2020 and January 2021, the following assessments of violent acts have risen to 1,038 on Cameroonian soil, with 1,579 deaths reported as a result of these violent events. Some major incidents include the 14th February 2020 Ngabo massacre in the northwest region, the 24th October 2020 Kuma massacre at the Mother Teresa Bilingual Academy, which claimed the lives of about 8 children in the southwest region, the January 6, 2021 assassination of the delegate of communication from Momo Division, Rebecca Kmer, alongside 5 soldiers in Momo Division, Northwest Region, and the January 2021 massacre at the Motu Village, Fako Division of the Southwest Region, which claimed the lives of several people. Faced with this growing number of human rights violations in Cameroon, civil society organizations including Stand Up for Cameroon have set up a working group on human rights with the need to carry out urgent action to improve the situation on what can be qualified as a bleak picture of human rights in Cameroon.
We, members of Stand Up, members of Almond Avenue and other platforms that compose of this commission, we have our own parts to play, and this is our own role that we are playing. We think that what makes it different from the National Commission, Human Rights Commission, is we get information from every other organization. We are not just, we get information from REDAC, we get information from Mandela Center and many other organizations, and this information we bring them together to publish to the public.
The new platform, according to officials of Stand Up for Cameroon, say they will continue to exert pressure on the Cameroonian government and other key stakeholders to ensure the strict respect of human rights in the country.
Wildflames have consumed one of the biggest leisure sites in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. The Ashlop complex came under a wildfire incident yesterday evening, and the incident started at about 7 p.m. yesterday, and the whole structure was brought down. That structure is in the Douala 5 municipality. According to workers of Ashlop, the fire actually started in the kitchen department, but before they could detect the origin of the flames, it was already quite late, and despite all efforts of fire soldiers, or better still rescue soldiers, the whole structure was brought down by the wild flames. This is not the first fire incident recorded in that part of the country. Recently was the Las Vegas complex that was razed by wild flames, and fire incidents have become recurrent in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. Take a listen to this witness account.
I'm the worker in a ice club. I'm a hotel management. So I came, I arranged those beds, those bed sheet. I cleaned the room. Later, when I meet my colleague in the restaurant, we sat there together. Later, we were hearing smoke. So the fire started from the restaurant. There was too much smoke, and then also I and my colleague decided to calm down. There was too pressure in the fire.
I don't know if fire extinguishers in your establishment?
No, it burned all. Everything burned there.
The fire extinguishers got burnt?
Yes,
so
everything.
You guys didn't detect the fire?
No, we didn't detect the fire. Everything got burned.
You don't know where the fire actually started from?
Yeah, no, for that one, we don't really know.
Did you guys manage to put things out, cement things outside?
No, it's the one of outside. It's a team from outside, because there everything is burned. It's the one outside. Yes, everything inside got burned.
We come back to football to talk about a former indomitable lion who has died in what has been qualified as shameful conditions. Nobe Ona, a former player of the indomitable Lions of Cameroon, died in the early hours of the morning today, and his corpse abandoned on the roadside. Innocent has more.
This is the deceased Onana Nobel, former striker and captain of the Indomitable Lions in the 1960s to 70s, notably at the 1972 African Nations Cup in its 8th edition, who died on the streets in New Bel Douala, January 3rd, 2021, after his home was demolished years back, alongside many others in a restricted area around the village neighborhood. The renowned player of Union Sportive of Douala local football club, since his retirement from the national football team, saw his life ending in a dungeon than honored. When his home was demolished, the father of 5 children was stranded and later returned to his New Bel neighborhood, where he chose to be struggling on his own, thereby sleeping in open air on verandas of shops. He fell sick with a strange illness but gained his sister's help. When the situation aggravated, he also appeared on the Solidarity TV program on Equinoxe television, Regard Social, for financial, moral and spiritual assistance. All of the aids from persons of goodwill, including Samuel Etofiels, known to be the sole player who greatly supported, enabled him to be admitted and treated at the New Bel Hospital.
Bon, juste quand il s'est bien rétabli maintenant, il est rentré à la maison.
He is known to have recovered, but his resumed terrible living condition was that which will claim his life.
Il s'est rétabli. Il a commencé sa vie. L'argent est fini. Il a attrapé l'ABC.
Onana Nobel's death is labeled on state authorities by Douala city dwellers who say abandoned him in difficult times than helping, like in cases of other former lions. It pains a lot to see a former striker for the national team who defended the national colors suffer and die like an outcast or a nobody on the street. Government has failed to honor him. It is heart-piercing. Government has neglected our brother. Onana Nobel in 1972 was one of the top strikers who played the World Cup and African Nations Cup and who has kept a tremendous record. He served the nation but treated like a piece of shit.
C'est malheureux pour le gouvernement camerounais. C'est très malheureux.
Onana Nobel died at the age of 70 on a store veranda on the streets where he was sleeping. Before his death, he had written a series of letters to government authorities demanding help, which never came.
Thanks, Innocent Aze. Coming up on the occasion of the International or the National Bilingualism Day, we take a look at why many Cameroonians are not bilingual at all, despite all the efforts being made by government institutions and even academic institutions to bring up a generation of perfectly bilingual Cameroonians. Many are not still bilingual. Immaculate Fogwe has more.
Je ne parle pas couramment anglais parce que dans mon cadre de vie, la majorité des gens ne s'expriment pas en anglais.
Sijer Jeannette, a lower sixth student at Government School Mungo Joseph, says she cannot read, speak, or understand the English language, even though it is an official language in Cameroon.
Non, je ne parle pas couramment anglais. Déjà parce que j'ai pas cette occasion de vivre avec les anglophones.
She is equally a student at Government School Mungo Joseph. She equally confesses her inability to speak English. More than 95% of Cameroonians are unable to speak or write English and French. Despite efforts to promote bilingualism, several Cameroonians from the highest to the lowest academic levels are still not bilingual. Strategies put in place by the bilingualism and academic institutions to raise a generation of perfectly bilingual Cameroonians are hindered by several factors. One of the major stumbling blocks highlighted by some educationists is wrong foundation laid by some unqualified teachers at the basic education level.
Students face many difficulties in learning English, and I think the most difficulty comes from primary school. Why? Because the teachers who are to teach English are not qualified. They don't master the language, and it makes the student not to like or to love the language. And finally, when they get to secondary school, it becomes difficult for us to make them love the language. So what do we do at our level? At our level, we try to motivate them, to make them love so that they will better understand. And for it, what do? We use gestures in class.
The 16th edition of the National Week of Bilingualism, celebrated on the 3rd of February, has this theme: Bilingualism, a tool for resilient, qualitative and inclusive education. The purpose of the ceremony is to make students aware of the importance of both languages.
Out of Cameroon, the opposition in the Central African Republic has withdrawn from the second round of the legislative elections over mass irregularities, and in Chad, an opposition coalition has been formed to topple incumbent President Idriss Déby Itno. Charles, or rather, for me, Armstrong Sander reports.
Coalition of opposition parties in the Central African Republic, popularly known under the name Coalition of the Democratic Oppositions, said on Tuesday that they will withdraw from the second round of the parliamentary elections, a declaration that came one day after the Constitutional Court rejected the attempts to annul the first round of voting. The bloc added that it will withdraw completely from this catastrophic process. The Central African Republic's top court on Monday invalidated the results of vote in 13 out of 140 constituencies, citing irregularities, including manipulation of ballot boxes and acts of violence. According to official results, incumbent President Faustin Archange Touadéra won the first poll of the parliamentary elections on the same day he won re-election as President of the Central African Republic. In Chad, 12 opposition parties say they will field a joint candidate against incumbent President Idriss Déby Itno, who has been in power for 30 years. Déby is expected to be named by his Patriotic Salvation Movement party as flag bearer in the polls built for April 11, 2021. Leaders of the 13 parties on Tuesday signed a deal creating an electoral coalition called Alliance Victory Alliance. In Congo-Brazzaville, the Conference of Bishops said on Tuesday that it had serious reservations about the upcoming presidential elections, saying that the coronavirus restrictions and a shaky electoral system could undermine faith in the vote. The March 21 ballot in the Republic of Congo will see incumbent President Denis Sassou Nguesso bid for a fourth term to extend 36 total years in power. The Catholic bishops question how mass rallies, which are necessary for a free election campaign, will be organized at a time when public gatherings have been banned to contain the spread of COVID-19. President Denis Sassou Nguesso, 79-year-old, has been in power since 1997. He had earlier ruled Congo from 1979 to 1992.
Armstrong Sander putting an end to the first part of this edition of the News Talking Point is up next. Thank you for staying with us in Talking Points. Today we are receiving one of the most courageous and outspoken female politicians in the Republic of Cameroon. Kabang Wala Edith is the national president of the Cameroon People's Party, the CPP, and she's also a member of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform. Madam the President, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello to and Happy New Year. I think it's my first time on the platform in 2021. So very happy to be here.
And we're going to be talking about human rights violations and abuse in Cameroon. And the Stand Up for Cameroon is raising an alarm as concerns the increase in human rights violation cases recorded in Cameroon, notably in the two English-speaking regions of the country. As per your findings, what's the situation as of now?
Yes, we Stand Up for Cameroon has created a human rights working group because we get this news piecemeal on your news stations. Today we hear this happened, tomorrow we hear that happened, but we decided to put the statistics together to have a global picture of what is happening, and it is very, very, very concerning. Actually, the crisis is huge in Cameroon. In human rights as a whole, in this report, we have focused on Northwest and Southwest, but we have also focused on Boko Haram. And we have drawn the attention to two other security situations in the country. One is the urban youth gangs, which are growing and which are fed by the crisis, because the kids in the urban youth gangs, some of them are refugees, some of them are IDPs. So the conflicts are feeding urban youth gangs. And finally, the piracy in the Gulf of Guinea, which is also very much linked to the Anglophone crisis. So the numbers are very, very alarming. In 2020, we had over 1,000 violent incidents on the territory of Cameroon. We had over 500 civilians who were killed, because sometimes when we think of Boko Haram, we feel that Boko Haram is fighting the army, or that armed separatists are fighting the army. No, the majority of violent incidents are actually against civilians. And the report has shown that all three groups, that is Boko Haram, the armed separatists, and the army, are carrying out acts of violence that violate the rights of civilians.
The report which you published today indicates that 1,038, not 10,000 as I indicated earlier, 1,038 cases of violation of human rights were recorded between January 2020 and January 2021. Can you tell us a little more about these figures and other issues highlighted in the report?
Yes. As we've said, these issues are incidents of violence, and most of them, the majority of them, are against civilians. So the report documents, of course, killings. The report documents illegal and arbitrary arrest. What we found is that the government of Cameroon almost systematically violates the law when it comes to arrest. There is a law and a penal code, a criminal code of procedure, and the government, unfortunately, is systematically violating the law when we talk about arrest. So hundreds of people are in jail illegally. Per Cameroonian law, when you violate the law at the moment of arrest, the case is automatically null and void. So normally these people should be released because they were not arrested following proper procedure. We also saw very concerning extrajudicial killings. If we take a country like Cameroon, imagine we are just 26 million people. We had, in the same year, we had Ngarbu on the 14th of February. We had Kumba in October, and then we had Ngechewe in December. All of these were mass killings that went, in one case, in Ngarbu, the army was at fault. In Kumba, it is presumed that armed separatists are at fault. Ngechewe is Boko Haram. So we see that all of the groups with arms on the national territory are killing civilians. And the other concerning elements that we have seen in the report, of course, the army shows a pattern. The army extrajudicial killings or attacks, large-scale attacks against civilians, they always occur when separatists go and carry out an attack, and then
there's a response.
Yes,
from the
army responds completely indiscriminately, without checking whether it is the separatists they are actually going after or the civilian population. So most of the army attacks, we see this pattern. Where the separatists are concerned, it is also very disturbing, because the separatists have decided to be a judge, jury, and executioner. So most of the separatist killings which they are doing, they do when they suspect somebody to be what they call a blackleg. So they decide themselves, we don't know what is their process for deciding that X or Y is somebody who has betrayed their fight, their cause. So they decide on it, they judge it, and then they execute, which is completely unacceptable. And then finally, also with the separatist fighters, very concerning in this report is that while all three groups are accused of gender-based violence, all three, so Boko Haram is using women as sex slaves, they are using women as suicide bombers, and in order to keep their constant supply of women, they are kidnapping to be able to feed their supply. The army has been accused of rape, has been accused of violence against women, but very concerning are the armed separatists, because the most horrific, atrocious violations of human rights have been committed by the armed separatists against women. So once again, they will decide that a woman, in almost all the cases, they decide that the woman is betraying the cause. Maybe they say she's going out with military officers, or that she's giving information to military officers.
Concerning the military, we should indicate that repeatedly on several occasions, the government authorities have often said the military are professional and they have nothing to do with most of the allegations, except for those that investigations actually proved their involvement, like the Ngarbu massacre. Now, concerning the separatists, there is a message in that report for pro-independence fighters, civilians who are carrying that gun.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes, the message concludes, of course, with recommendations for all of the actors. Where the separatists are concerned, Stand Up for Cameroon reiterates what we have said for the last 4 years, which is that there is an Anglophone problem in Cameroon. There is a historical, political, cultural, economic problem. However, the way to address that problem is not with guns. And the report clearly shows that the armed separatists are doing more harm to the civilian population than to any other person. They are really carrying out a lot of atrocities with regard to the civilian population. Now, with regard to with regard to the army, unfortunately, we have to say it point blank: our army lies. Every single time that it is brought to their attention that soldiers have gone in, as we say, it's always in response. They have gone in response, but they have done so indiscriminately, taking in civilians, sometimes women, sometimes children. Every time the army is accused of that, their first position is denial. They always, even Garbu, we only got to towards the truth. I have to say towards the truth because we are 1 year away from Garbu. The Garbu anniversary is next week, 14th of February. And to date, nothing has happened with that case. Nothing has actually happened in court. The case has come to court twice, but we have not seen a proper investigation. Government has not even bothered to actually identify next of kin. And the Stand Up for Cameroon lawyers who are following up that case are also raising an alarm to say, despite the fact that government admitted that they were wrong in this case, we are not getting justice. I think maybe the final group in the case that
and before you continue with your analysis, another similar case, which is similar to the Garbu massacre, which was highlighted during the press conference by some members and officials of CPP and Stand Up for Cameroon, like Frank Kessie and Bergeline, is this question: what about Wazizi? Where is Samuel Wazizi? Till today, the family has not received the corpse. What is happening? Lots of questions around that particular case. Investigations have not spoken anything.
So the first thing we have to say is that this habit, it is really a habit of the Biya regime of not respecting the law at the time of arrest, ends up in catastrophe. Because they do not respect the law, people are held incommunicado, which is against Cameroonian law and against all the international treaties that Cameroon has signed. You are a government, you are a state. You cannot arrest somebody and then we are looking for that person. It is completely unacceptable. And unfortunately, when the government does that, they open the window for what we call the forcibly disappeared. So a state is holding somebody, then that person disappears. This is completely atrocious. So we have the case of Wazizi, which is very, very well known. But in the report, we highlight that there are 71 people to date, 71 people to date, who upon arrest, their families raised the alarm, saying that we don't know where our person is. We don't know where our people are. We have one of the most recent cases of Mr. John Sama and Mr. Ebot, who are two teachers from here in Douala, arrested one night in the judiciary police here, transferred to Yaoundé. We were looking for Mr. Sama for 43 days. 43 days. Why should a government hold one of its citizens and then we are looking for the person? At that moment, the government becomes, there is no difference, as I told the officials in Yaoundé, because you must know that this report is being used by us to meet with the officials in Yaoundé and confront them on some of these cases. If the government is holding somebody and we are incommunicado, then there's no difference between government and amber groups. Because when amber kidnaps somebody, we start calling around to say, oh, do you think the person might be here, or do you think a government is behaving in the same way? You have somebody in government custody, but we are calling, looking for the person, as if the person is being held by a rogue group. So the BR regime is really comporting itself as a rogue state when it comes to these arrests, and it's causing these disappearances.
And we still have journalists like Njoka Kingsley and others who are still in detention till today.
Absolutely.
Even though they have denied any wrongdoing, they are still being in detention, some of them qualified as terrorists and so on by officials of the Ministry of Defense. Now, what about the members of Stand Up for Cameroon who have been in detention for several months now?
Yes, we have 4 members of Stand Up for Cameroon who were arrested as they were leaving a meeting at Stand Up for Cameroon. That meeting was held by leaders of Stand Up for Cameroon. It was not, those leaders were not arrested. 4 young men were arrested as they left, and those 4 young men are in New Bell prison up to now when we are speaking to you. And this was around the time of the march of the 22nd of September, except they were arrested on the 18th, before a march ever took place. As you know, we are counting 139 people who are still in jail. About over 500 people were arrested during that march, and 139 of them are still in jail as we speak. So our 4 colleagues are in New Bell prison with close to 70 members of the CRM, and the CRM has other people around the country in Yaoundé, in Bafoussam, who were arrested during that march. Now, once again, this is illogical. Mr. Kamto is the president of CRM. He called for the march. He was put under house arrest. His house arrest has been lifted. Why do you keep people who are followers, people who did not, they were not leaders, they were not organizers, they responded to a call? They are still in prison. Mr. Kamto is house arrest has been lifted. Normally, as his house arrest was lifted, everybody associated to that march should have been released from jail. In the first place, they should never have been arrested. Because we are talking about non-violent marching. Yes?
They're said to be under judicial examination.
What kind of judicial examination, Mr. Babila? We must be careful. These are human beings that we are talking about. I don't know if you've ever been to a prison in Cameroon. You would not like to spend hours there, not to talk of days or weeks or months. What judicial examination are they under? People who never committed an act of violence. People who were responding to a call of a political party. That political party is the known entity. Under the law of Cameroon, that political party has a right to political expression of their point of view, and that includes protest marching. Why are these young men in jail? Young men and women, because there are a few women inside. Up to date, September to we are February. I've just entered February. What is government of Cameroon investigating that they have not yet determined? For people who never carried a gun or a knife or a stick even.
Now, before we go, have you been told the crime that your members committed, or the members of Stand Up for Cameroon who were arrested because they were arrested after a meeting? Were they arrested for attending the meeting?
It is a complete paradox to us, because a complete mystery to us, because they are charged with conspiracy for rebellion, for terrorism, and we are wondering, if people attended a meeting, why then is everybody who attended that meeting not arrested? Why do you arrest 4 people? Let us be clear, Mr. Babila. The BR regime uses arrest as a political tool to fight its political opponents, to instill fear in the hearts of Cameroonians. It is not about those 4 boys. It is about passing a message that if you are a member of Stand Up for Cameroon, then your life is in danger, in the hopes that people will therefore then not join us at Stand Up for Cameroon. Unfortunately for the BR regime, they keep committing actions which bring Cameroonians to move towards the opposition.
Kabanwala Ejid, National President of the Cameroon People's Party, CPP, member of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society Platform. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, and I would just say thank you to all the civil society organizations who do the work on the ground. CHRDA, REDAC, Nouveau Droit de l'Homme, Mandela Center. It is the reports of these people who work on the ground that we have used to compile our own report, and we must say a huge thank you to them for the daily work they do.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Equinoxe is up next.